Hello everybody, it's Vortak here and welcome to the 15th episode in our Rising World Let's Play, where today we are taking a suggestion or two straight from the comments. I'll get to that in a second, but how is everybody? Thank you so much. We are still playing the game in creative mode in order to make gathering materials and building a lot easier for making videos. And a few things have been added to the game today that I wanted to go over real quick. I'm just pausing here so I get my other screen up. So they've added new animals, sheep and fox. We have some new furniture, 3 new tables, bench, an old bed, radiator, and 2 different types of curtains. We have new lamps that are lanterns. There's 4 different types of those, and just a bunch of other general updates for server owners and bug fixes and things like that. So those are the more notable things. We may or may not kind of see those as we're scrolling through items, but I wanted to point them out real quick before we got started. So there you go. Now, as I said, we're taking suggestions straight from the comments. Burrito Mafia says, "Hey Vortex, can you make a cave house, please? It would be awesome, and I just, let's see, I would like it as modern as possible. You can name it the Mafia Cave." So, awesome. I love that idea. I want to do that because we've been building outside quite a bit, and it does take a lot of resources, and doing something to collect some extra stone would not be a bad idea. And another suggestion I got today from Jacob Mahler was, I would love to see you build a house under the mountain that went to the top of it. So I'm guessing what Jacob means is building a house within the cave and then a ladder that climbs up to a summit. And that mountain is perfect. It's right in front of our village, and I think it would make the perfect place for a cave house, a modern-looking cave house. I even have an idea of how it's going to look. So there we go. That is the plan for today. I went and gathered up some more wood, so we have that there. And I already have a little bit of stone. I don't know if we'll make a pathway to it or not. Maybe it'll just be kind of like an offshoot of the village. And yeah, so that's the plan. I'm really excited to get started. I'm not sure exactly how it's going to look because the problem with that summit up there is we have all this mountain down here. We got to basically get rid of this whole little chunk if we want to use that summit, maybe. I haven't even been up there, though. Let's climb up there real quick and see what we're working with. You can tell there's a cave already there, so we're going to have to deal with that, too, falling into that while we're trying to dig. So up here, how flat is this land? It looks like we have a whole little valley up here. Maybe what we can do, once we get the cave built, maybe in the next episode I'll come up here and build some stuff. And maybe we can like pop some kind of hole in this mountain so we can see down at our village, which is right there where that big dirt patch is. But since the rendering on this game isn't very far, we're not seeing the houses, which is kind of a shame. I actually want to come into the settings real quick because I feel like I have view distance is kind of low. If we make that 35 chunks, detail distance at maybe 15, and we kind of enable a few other things. Let's bump the quality to high, and I'm going to save those settings. Restart application. All right, we'll be right back. Okay, so as you can see, we can definitely see the village now. Obviously, I could use a little more. I can put up the view distance for the detail a little bit higher, and that'll see that house that just kind of popped into view. Look, I'm like right on the threshold of the cusp of seeing that house. And we can see a lot more land. It looks a little more natural now. We don't have that obnoxious line just through the sand that blocks off the rest of the chunks. I'm going to keep upping the detail a little bits at a time and being cautious of how much my processor is going. This game is a resource whore. So I need to be very, very cautious of all that. But I think that's a lot better. We can at least see what's, you know, it's easier to find the village. That was kind of a problem for me. And since they made a few little changes today, I thought, why the hell not? So since we're looking at up there for our summit, I think kind of going away from that cave and starting right here in this nice chunk of rock will be perfect for our cave house. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to show you guys first how to set to creative mode. So you hit the little squiggly line next to the 1 key, and you type set game type 1. Bam. Creative mode. Hit escape, get out of that, and pop out your mountain. Perfect. Now this might still take a little bit to dig through, but as you can see, 1 hit does the trick. I gotta be really careful not to hold the mouse button too much, because otherwise we're gonna lose a whole bunch of stone. And I can replace it, but it's not the same. I like the natural look of digging out a cave. And I'm not gonna have a nice floor, but I'm not gonna bother with changing the walls or anything like that. because it's supposed to be like a house in a cave, and I want it to look modern. And I feel like a modern house, if you were to think of like a modern structure, a modern house built into a cave would kind of resemble some like cave wall in there as well. You know, I don't know. It just depends on your idea of a modern house. So I'm sure that'll be subject to some criticism, but that's okay. Now, my idea for this cave house isn't going to be maybe what you guys were thinking. I'm thinking more like a cave lounge. We're going to go into the cave a little bit, not too much. I'm going to make it kind of wide, and then we're going to have like a nice deck out here for kind of partying and entertaining guests. And that's when maybe we'll start to go in the back a little bit more and climb up to the summit. So I want to make it deep enough to where if I make a ladder, I'm not coming out the side of the mountain. We definitely come out into that summit past that little lip the mountain has sticking out right there. Or maybe not lip, but, you know, pillar that's kind of there. So we want to make sure we go deep enough, but we need light for sure. I have some torches, but I don't see any torch mounts. Okay, why don't we go to crafting and see what we have for lights? Just the torch, huh? Alright, I'm going to run back and make some more... Let's use some lamps. Why don't we check out those new lamps? So I'm looking at some of these new lanterns. We have some ceiling lanterns here. I like these square ones. They're a little more modern looking. We have lamps that are white. These might be good for our deck. But I'm thinking for the inside of the cave part, we're going to do some of these ceiling lamps. And I'm going to make a bunch because they are free at the moment since there's no materials we need to collect. So I'm just making a bunch of those. We're going to be removing them as we kind of refine the cave house. So the ones I place are just going to be random. I'm not going to worry about them looking nice or making any damn sense. I'm just going to kind of throw them in there. As you can see, it's very dark and I need them very badly. I know about the L key. That basically removes, it's like a flashlight, and it kind of removes all of the shadows, in a sense. I really don't want to use this, because it feels kind of cheating, and I feel like we're kind of cheating enough as it is. So let's just place some lanterns. This lights up the cave very nicely. It looks a lot more natural, a lot nicer, and now we have the freedom to kind of mine a little bit more into the cave. So I know that this game right now is like really on the cusp of creative versus like a survival game where you gather resources. That's why I'm a little more lenient with things like creative mode and stuff, whereas when I used to play Minecraft a lot, I would say, no, I'm not using creative, I'm not going to spawn in items, I want to do this legitimately, and so I would rarely spawn in an item. It would just kind of depend on the circumstances, I guess. But for this game, I'm not going to spawn in items, but I'm definitely all for something that makes mining a lot faster. Alright, so we're just going to dig in. I think I also want to make it wider. I had said I want the mouth of the cave a little bit wider, so we're going to kind of go this way with it a little bit. Pop this out. So it's turning nighttime right now, and I think our cave mouth is coming along rather nicely. I think I'm just going to work through the night. It's bright enough in here to where I don't need to worry about sleeping at the moment. Now, the cave is kind of creating this weird shape that goes up like that. I've mined a little too far up. And I'm not sure. We're going to test real quick to see what it's like to place stone back. As you can see, I'm just kind of... It doesn't... It's not as obnoxious as I thought it would be. It just kind of comes back down a little bit. So we want to make it look natural. But I didn't want it that tall. So, okay, we've kind of evened it out a little bit more. Let's put some there. It makes these little teeth in the mountain, too, which is weird. Let's put one there. Okay. Alright, so that's pretty good. This is one thing, like, without having the blocks that I had in other games, it's hard to make things even, which is okay. We want it to look natural and cool looking. I just didn't want it to be like that off. So I'm going to keep digging. I want it to be just a tiny bit wider, and I'm going to focus on digging the ground out first and just worry about giving myself enough headroom to walk. And that should help us without making the mountain too damn tall. Although I'm kind of doing it again. I don't know how wide or deep I want it to go. But I think we're on the right track here. So, I don't want it to be too much. It's just kind of like a little cave lounge. I think that's going to do it. I think that'll be pretty good. Now, we do have a pretty lumpy roof where you can see I clearly just like swatted a pickaxe in there. And it's creating these little parts jutting out. So let's just kind of... Maybe if we make the inside... So we keep the front of the cave low... and we make the inside kind of poke up more, that might do it. But no, you know what? From out here, that doesn't look so bad. Let's throw a light right here just to see, so we can light up the rest of it. what that looks like. I'd say that's pretty cool. It's kind of a cool little lounge look to it. So the next thing I want to do is make a sledgehammer, and that will smooth out some of the stone. But I'm going to put floor down anyway. I haven't had an excuse to use a sledgehammer yet. So what I'm going to do is sleep through the night, and we're going to make a sledgehammer. Our sledgehammer is crafted. It's very easy to make. You just make a sledgehammer head in the anvil and select the sledgehammer tool in your tool workbench, whatever the heck it is. So I didn't feel like you guys really needed to learn the crafting recipe there. And we're going to test this out. So if I smack the stone, it makes a cool little sound. Bink. And it kind of smooths it out to all one level. That's pretty cool. Now, the downside to using this as opposed to a pickaxe is you don't get any stone from it. But it does lower the land a pretty good amount. It doesn't dig giant holes like the pickaxe does, which is what I want. Let's kind of lower it to there. That's not doing anything. Let's see here. All right. I mean, that's pretty good. All I really want to do is make it low enough to where if I put down some flooring, the stone isn't going to be poking through. So the front is my biggest concern. It's poking up the most out of the rest of this area here. So we're just going to smooth that out to the level of the grass, and it kind of like slopes up a tiny bit, which is not a big deal. Like that. Okay, and then this part for sure needs to be lowered. Maybe we can even get out the rake and mess with the grass around it too. But no, I'd say that's pretty even. That's pretty good. So the next thing we do need to do is mow down some of this grass. I'm going to get this guy out. And maybe in creative mode... No, it doesn't go any faster in creative mode. So I'm going to mow down some of this grass to make room for our porch. I've mowed down some grass and selected a very gorgeous wood floor for our modern cave lounge. Now, the angle on this is going to kind of move things around a little bit. It's going to be a little bit weird, but I think we're going to work with it. And this is the level I want the wood in the ground. I've actually wasted a whole bunch of this, putting it one higher. So we're going to come out to here with that. And I'm going to go back into the cave and hopefully see if it starts to get covered up by some stones. So I'm going to place that. And obviously we need to, smooth some stuff out here, especially going into the back. So I thought the upward slope wouldn't hurt us, but it is a little bit. But don't worry, we have the sledgehammer, and we can definitely smooth around this wood floor. I'm going to go maybe all the way back to here, and then we'll come across like this. And what that's going to do is kind of bury that underground. I love how natural that ends up looking. It's pretty cool. We can just chop that away with an axe. But overall, I still want the floor to show through the wall, through the stone. So we'll kind of keep smoothing out. We got to lower this quite a bit. And the sledgehammer only does so much. Maybe I need to mine a little bit more out. But that's going to be okay. Let's kind of pop this down a little bit more. I think maybe right there is going to be the limit for this, just for now. Maybe some of the porch or the deck or whatever you want to call it will come out outside the cave. So the outside of it looks a little bit better. In fact, I made a bunch of it. Let's go into that, and let's take this and put it here. We're almost running out. I gotta get a whole bunch more wood. Ooh, this is gonna hit the grass. I didn't do a very good job mowing it down either, did I? So I'm going to mess around a little bit more with maybe the layout. There we go. I think that looks pretty good. That's definitely a nice start to our little cave lounge here. Maybe not what some of you were imagining. I know this is all going to be filled in, and I might go into the cave a little bit more since there's not a whole lot of cave lounge to this lounge. But perhaps if I do go back here more, and I need to eventually to get up to the summit anyway, we'll put like a bar in the corner and stuff and leave a lot of cave backdrop there. I think that will look really, really nice. But for now, my concern is getting this thing all filled in with the remaining wood we have, and I'm going to need to go get more for sure. But we do have the layout, and I think you guys can get an idea now of how this is going to turn out for entertaining this patio we have here. It's just going to be like a patio bar. That's pretty cool. So I'm going to go gather a little bit more wood, fill this in, and we'll see how it turns out. Nice. This is looking awesome. So I have all of the wood floor filled in that I wish to fill in. Perhaps maybe I'll come around out here a little bit more just to kind of, make it a little less even. I need to fix in here too. Maybe put some corner pieces so this isn't so jagged and weird looking. But for now, I'm pretty happy with it. I don't know about you guys. I think maybe what I could even do is like go into the mountain like that. And that way it looks a little more naturally jagged. So maybe we'll just keep it like that. Let me pop that out. We have a couple more left over here. It took a lot of resources to get this where it is. Let's pop it in like that. Maybe like that. And that was too high. That's okay, though. And if we go down, that's pretty cool. Maybe I'll just let it all do that. Just naturally kind of mold itself into the mountain. And that'll look nice. So there we go. We have the start of our lounge. In the next episode, I plan on finishing up the lounge, maybe making like a bar area, and perhaps in another episode, we'll start going up to that summit, because that's not going to be too, I don't know, building intensive, but if we want to put something cool up there, then that's a different story. We'll just kind of see by the next episode how we feel. But for now, there you go. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like. Share it with your friends. If you have any building suggestions, don't be afraid to leave those in the comments as well. I will see you guys next time in Rising World, or another daily video on the channel, perhaps. See you later. 28. Oh, you keep turning it down. I get it. These are dials that minus out into other units of temperature. I see. Okay, so that makes a whole lot more sense. If I hit reset, it's at 70, and then we can take it down to 52, 34, and then below, let's see here, target temperature 32 degrees.